Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive with yours truly. Today we're tackling something a little different, but something I know a lot of you have probably wondered about, especially if you're like me and you love your houseplants. And you also love your dogs.
Right. So we're going to be looking at the dangers of, well, not all houseplants, but some pretty common houseplants that dog owners might not realize could be toxic. And this is all based on a really interesting article I found recently. It's called 10 Most Dangerous Houseplants That Dog Owners Must Avoid, and it comes from 10 Most Today. I think people are going to be pretty surprised by some of the plants on this list. I know I was.
Yeah, like aloe vera. I mean, most people think of that as being super beneficial and you put it on sunburns, and it's supposed to be good for you. But I guess not so much for our furry friends.
Yeah, so with aloe vera, the gel itself is actually fine, but the other parts of the plant, like the leaves, for example, they contain substances that can cause problems for dogs if they eat them, primarily saponins.
Saponins? What are those?
Well, they're a type of chemical compound that some plants produce as a defense mechanism, you see. Plants have evolved over millions of years to protect themselves from being eaten, and these saponins, they can cause irritation and digestive upset in animals that ingest them.
Interesting. So something that's good for us could actually be a defense mechanism for the plant.
Exactly. And speaking of defense mechanisms, the next plant on our list is common ivy.
Ivy. But that's everywhere.
You're right, it is very common. And unlike poison ivy, which causes those nasty skin reactions, common ivy is more of a problem if a dog decides to eat it.
I've got to be honest,
Yeah.
I have a ton of ivy growing in my yard. I never thought twice about it.
Well, it's definitely something to be aware of if you have dogs. Because
Yeah.
common ivy, it also contains these saponins. And if a dog ingests enough of it, it can lead to some pretty serious problems.
Like what?
Well, it can cause vomiting and diarrhea, but it can also lead to difficulty breathing and even neurological problems like paralysis in some cases.
Wow. I had no idea. So those pretty little vines are a little more dangerous than they look.
Yeah, you could say that. And while we're on the subject of deceptive appearances, the next plant we need to talk about is the peace lily.
Oh yeah, the peace lily. That's a really popular one. What makes it so dangerous?
Peace lilies contain these tiny needle-like structures called calcium oxalate crystals. And these crystals, they're insoluble, which means they don't dissolve in water, and they're sharp,
So basically like microscopic daggers.
pretty much. And when a dog bites into a peace lily, these crystals get embedded in their mouth and throat, causing all sorts of irritation.
So that's what causes the swelling and drooling and vomiting.
Exactly. It's a pretty unpleasant experience for the dog.
Ouch. So we've covered aloe vera, ivy, and peace lilies. What's next on the hit list?
Okay, so next up we have the jade plant, sometimes called the baby jade.
I love jade plants. They're so cute and low maintenance. What's wrong with them?
Well, the weird thing about jade plants is that we actually don't know exactly what makes them toxic to dogs.
Wait, what do you mean?
We haven't been able to pinpoint the specific toxin that causes the problems.
So how do we know they're dangerous?
We know because the effects on dogs are well documented, even though we're not sure what substance exactly is causing them. Dogs that have ingested jade plants can exhibit a variety of symptoms, like ataxia.
Ataxia.
Yeah, that's basically a loss of coordination. They can also experience vomiting, lethargy, and a slowed heart rate.
So even though we don't know what the specific culprit is,
Mhm.
it's clear that jade plants are not safe for dogs.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to get a little nervous about all my house plants now. Are there any that are safe?
Don't worry, we'll get to the safe alternatives later.
Okay, good. So what else is on this list of dangerous plants?
Well, next up we have the elephant ear plant.
Elephant ear. Yeah, those are becoming really popular. I've been thinking about getting one, but now I'm not so sure.
I understand. Unfortunately, elephant ear plants are also toxic to dogs.
Why? What's in them that's so bad?
They contain those calcium oxalate crystals we talked about earlier.
Oh no, so same problem as the peace lily.
Yep. Oral irritation, swelling, difficulty swallowing, the whole 9 yards.
Great, just what I wanted to hear.
And actually, the elephant ear plant's toxicity is very similar to another plant on our list, the dumb cane.
The dumb cane. That's a
Yeah.
weird name.
It is a strange name, and it comes from the fact that ingesting this plant can cause severe swelling of the tongue, making it difficult to speak.
Ah, I see. So same crystals, same problems.
Yep. But dumb cane also contains these compounds called proteolytic enzymes, and they can make things even worse.
How so?
Well, proteolytic enzymes break down proteins, and when these enzymes come into contact with the tissues in a dog's mouth, it can cause intense pain and burning.
Oh, wow. So the crystals cause mechanical damage and the enzymes cause chemical damage.
That sounds really bad.
It can be. In severe cases, the swelling can actually block the airway, making it difficult for the dog to breathe.
Oh, no. That sounds potentially fatal.
It can be if it's not treated quickly.
Okay. So dumb cane is definitely one to avoid.
Absolutely.
Are all of these plants kind of causing the same problems, or some worse than others? Well, most of them cause oral irritation and digestive upset, but there are a couple that are even more concerning.
Okay. Which ones are those?
We need to talk about the sago palm.
The sago palm.
Yeah. This one is especially dangerous because every single part of the plant is toxic to dogs.
Every part.
Every part. The roots, the leaves, the seeds, even the pollen.
Yikes. What makes it so toxic?
It contains a toxin called psychocin, which is a type of neurotoxin.
That's not toxic.
Yep, so it affects the nervous system.
And that can
all
cause
sorts of serious problems. Liver damage, seizures, paralysis. In some cases, it can even be fatal.
Wow. That's really scary. Okay. So sago palm is a big no-no.
Absolutely.
What else is there?
Another one that's particularly dangerous is sow bread.
Sow bread. I've never even heard of that one.
It's a pretty common houseplant, though, often with really attractive flowers.
Okay.
But the problem is it contains these compounds called terpenoid saponins.
Saponins again.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Same problems as the other plants.
Well, sow bread can also cause gastrointestinal upset, but it can also affect the heart.
The heart?
Yeah. It can cause an abnormal heartbeat and even seizures.
Wow. So these saponins, they can really do a number on a dog.
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Any other dangerous plants we need to be aware of?
Just one more on our list. It's actually a type of fern.
A fern, yep.
It's called the emerald feather, although it also goes by a few other names, like asparagus fern and springery fern.
Okay.
And with this one, it's actually the berries that are the problem.
The berries.
Yep. They contain a toxin called sapogenin.
Another one.
Yeah. These plant toxins. They really like to get creative with their names.
So what does sapogenin do to dogs?
Well, it can cause skin irritation, leading to redness, itching, and even blisters. It can also cause gastrointestinal upset, like vomiting and diarrhea.
Okay, so we've got a whole laundry list of plants here that could potentially harm our furry friends. I have to say, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Are there any plants that are safe for dogs? Please tell me there are.
Don't worry, there are plenty of safe options out there, in fact. We're going to talk all about those in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, that's good to hear. I was starting to think I was going to have to turn my house into a plant-free zone.
No need for that.
I'm glad to hear it. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore some dog-friendly plant alternatives.
See you then?
Okay, so we've learned about all these dangerous plants.
Yeah.
But what can we actually do to keep our dogs safe?
Right. So knowing is half the battle. Now we need to talk about prevention.
Okay. How do we prevent our dogs from getting into these plants?
Well, the most obvious solution is to just not have these plants in your home.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But what if you really love those plants? Like, I'm not getting rid of my jade plant. I love that thing.
I understand. And you don't necessarily have to get rid of all your plants, but you do need to be strategic about placement.
Strategic.
Yeah. Think vertical. Like put your plants on high shelves or in hanging baskets, anywhere your dog can't easily reach them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see how that would help. But some dogs are pretty good jumpers.
True. But that's where training comes in.
Training.
Yeah. Teach your dog a solid leave it command.
Oh, yeah. Leave it.
Exactly. If you're consistent with your training, your dog will learn that those plants are off limits.
So it's a combination of physical barriers and behavioral training.
Exactly. And it's also important to make sure your dog has plenty of appropriate things to chew on.
Oh, yeah. Good point. A bored dog is more likely to get into trouble.
Right. Provide them with plenty of chew toys and make sure they're getting enough exercise.
Yes. Keep them entertained, and they'll be less likely to nibble on your plants.
Exactly.
Okay. All of that makes sense. But what if? Despite our best efforts, our dog still manages to eat a toxic plant?
That's when you need to contact your veterinarian immediately.
Immediately.
Yes. Don't wait and see if they get sick. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Okay, good to know. Now, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Why are some plants toxic to dogs in the first place?
Well, as we talked about earlier, it all comes down to evolution. Plants have developed these toxins as a way to protect themselves from being eaten.
Right. Like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. And what's interesting is what's toxic to one animal might be perfectly harmless to another.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It all depends on how those animals have evolved to interact with the plants in their environment.
So, dogs just haven't evolved to handle these particular plant toxins.
That's right.
Makes sense. Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I definitely learned a lot today.
Yeah.
And speaking of learning, I'm really excited to hear about those safe plant alternatives.
Okay, let's dive into those. So, according to our source, some great options for dog-friendly plants include the bony-tailed palm, bamboo, hens and chicks, blue echeveria, and burro's tail.
Ooh, burro's tail. That one sounds interesting.
It is. It's a type of succulent
Yeah,
with these really cool trailing stems covered in plump teardrop-shaped leaves.
I can picture it. And it's safe for dogs.
Totally safe. All of the plants I just mentioned are considered non-toxic to dogs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we can still have plants in our homes.
Yeah.
We just need to choose wisely.
Exactly.
Now, I have to ask, what makes these plants safe? Do they just not have any toxins in them?
It's not quite that simple. They might still contain some potentially irritating compounds, but the levels are so low that they're unlikely to cause any harm to a dog.
Okay, so it's a matter of dosage.
Pretty much. And even with these safe plants, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on your dog and their behavior around plants. Some dogs just love to chew, and you never know what might tempt them.
Good point. Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Well, this whole conversation has really got me thinking.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's made me realize that our homes are like these little ecosystems.
Right.
And we need to be mindful of how all the different elements interact.
Exactly. It's like we're creating these miniature versions of the natural world.
And we need to make sure they're balanced so that everyone can thrive.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. But there's one more thing I'd like to touch on.
What's that?
I'm curious about our relationship with plants and pets and how we can find that balance between enjoying both without compromising anyone's well-being.
That's a great topic. And it's something we'll be exploring in more depth in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back, folks. So we've talked about the scary stuff, the dangerous plants, and we've even found some good alternatives that are safe for our furry friends. But I'm really intrigued by that idea you mentioned at the end of the last part about finding a balance between our plants and our pets.
Oh, yeah. It's something I think a lot of people don't really consider, you know? We bring all this nature into our homes. The plants, the pets, even the materials we use for furniture and stuff. And we don't always think about how those things might interact.
Like creating our own little ecosystems
Yeah,
without even realizing it.
exactly. And those ecosystems can be pretty delicate. We need to be mindful of the relationships between everything, especially the plants and the pets, you know? Finding a way for everyone to coexist peacefully. Right. Safety is paramount. But it's more than just choosing safe plants and being careful about placement. It's about cultivating a sense of awareness
Awareness of what?
of how our pets experience the world. Their senses are so different from ours. Their sense of smell is way more powerful. They're curious. They explore with their mouths. We need to remember that.
It's so true. We might see a harmless little plant, but our dog might see a delicious snack.
Exactly. Or a chew toy. So it's our responsibility to anticipate those differences and create an environment that's safe for them.
So it's about understanding and respect.
Absolutely. We need to respect our pets and recognize that they depend on us to make good choices for them.
And we need to respect the plants too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
They're living beings, too. They have their own needs and defenses.
Okay. So how do we put all of this into practice? It sounds kind of abstract.
Well, it starts with education. That's what we're doing right now. Learning about the potential dangers, the safe alternatives, and the importance of creating a balanced home environment.
But it's more than just knowledge,
Right.
right?
Right. It's about observation, too. Pay attention to your pets. How do they interact with their surroundings? What are they drawn to? What do they avoid? What makes them happy? What makes them stressed?
Like being a detective in our own homes.
Exactly. And once you start paying attention, you can start making changes to create a safer and more harmonious environment.
So being proactive.
Yes. Don't wait for something bad to happen. Do your research, be mindful of your choices, and provide your pets with plenty of enrichment to keep them out of trouble.
It sounds like the key takeaway here
Yeah.
is that we need to be more aware of the impact our choices have, not just on ourselves, but on all the living beings we share our homes with.
Well said. You know, this whole conversation reminds me of a quote I heard once. It goes like this: "The best education you'll ever get is watching what happens in nature."
I love that.
Nature is full of wisdom, and if we pay attention, we can learn so much about how to live in harmony
with each other.
And with the planet.
Well,
I think that's a perfect note to end on. What do you think?
I agree. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
And remember, keep learning, keep observing, and keep creating those harmonious home ecosystems.
We'll see you next time.
Bye!